as we normally do, and reminding you about our live streams up, and also saying hello to audiences who are just joining us around the nation on radio terrestrial and on KTN. Karibuni sana. There's been a lot that's been happening in terms of what the health sector requirements are, and we're getting into that conversation because the nurses have said, you know what? UHC workers as well have said, no, we cannot continue like this. And joining us in the hot seat of the Situation Room is the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Nurses, Seth Panyako. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Sante.
Things are not well, it would appear. Well, we're going to get into that. Let's allow you to take a few minutes of, therapy, whereby you would interpret the proverb for us that CT is going to share, and he's going to tell you where it's from. Then you can take a few minutes to interpret that as we then get into our conversation for this hour.
Yes, proverbs for the whole of this week are from the Gabonese Republic. Today's proverb is a simple, straightforward proverb. Easy to understand and easy to interpret. What comes out of the mouth has lost its master.
It's obvious that if you speak out, you will not be in control of what you have said. Once people have heard it, it has gone. The damage or the good thing it will cause, you have no control over it. Whether you retract it, whether you want to say I withdraw it, it's already out with the people. So it only encourages us that we must speak with your mind, not just go there and talk without knowing what you're saying. Some people say they speak first, then they think after speaking. Yep.
So remember that once it's out, there's very little that you can do about it.
Really.
Especially if it's something that's damaging, right?
Yes.
Okay, so here we are, and there have been a number of conversations that have been out in the public for months now. We've seen doctors renew strike notice. We've seen clinical officers be on strike for the longest time. UHC workers have now come out and said, actually, no, this cannot be, because the payments that you had said that you were going to give to us is not working. And now we are in a place where we're saying voices need to be heard. What's going on, Seth?
Yeah, what's happening in government is that it has been disappointment from year to year. You remember last year when everybody else was going on strike, I was here and I said nurses are not going on strike because we had clear promise in writing by the government, then Minister of Health, that they are going to put this UHC staff on permanent and pensionable beginning July of last year. When that time came, the Council of Governors brought in politics, and they were saying that the Ministry of Health has not given them the resources to absorb those staff. And the ministry was saying, look here, you are the people who are enjoying the services of these health workers, so you absorb them and pay them. And then the Council of Governors brought up a lot of issues about the wage limits, wage bill limits, and so on and so forth. So it has been pull and push for all this time. This kind of staff are the ones that are pushing what we call universal health coverage. And then you cannot talk of universal health coverage if the people who are supposed to deliver are not happy. They are on the streets. When you go to county health facilities today, level 2 and 3 are completely grounded because nurses in those facilities who run those facilities and clinical are nurses, and level 3 clinical officers are nurses. So those facilities have died, and those are the most accessible health facilities to our people in the communities.
So here we are at a situation today whereby from July 2024 the demand was made. Thereafter we saw governors step in and say, no, we can't do this. But then now we are in March 2025, and what we're saying is that the situation has not changed, nothing has improved, none of the promises have been kept.
No, none of those promises have been kept. But when you look at the money that is required, for example, today, to absorb this group of health workers to permanent and pensionable, today from April 1st is 2 billion, only 1.92 billion. And you ask yourself, how much is 1.92 billion? Initially it was 3.5 billion. Now you see time has gone, the year is coming to an end. So if the government is serious, 1.92 billion is pocket change for some guys in this country. So I don't understand how you have poor Kenyans in the communities to suffer when they only require 1.9 billion, 1.92 billion.
What's this 1.92 billion essentially supposed to do?
It is supposed to they are on contract. So the deficit that you need to add on what they are earning today for them to transit to permanent pensionable. Those are about 8,500 health workers. Imagine they just require 1.92, roughly about 2 billion, to convert them into permanent pensionable. Why tell me that this government cannot afford that kind of money? It can. So it simply means that somebody somewhere is playing politics with lives of Kenyans.
Is this the reason that they gave that government does not have enough money at the current time to then be able to offer this permanent and pensionable status to the 8,500 health workers?
You know, the way they did supplementary budget, we saw that the money was factored and it was passed. But when it went to government print, I was told that aspect was removed. Government doesn't, no one can say government doesn't have money. Our country is not broke, and the government cannot be broke. You have seen, the other day we were told 6 billion was meant for what? Has been stolen. Members of Parliament were saying. Now, out of the 6 billion, they should return that 6 billion and get 2 billion from it and pay these people. You know, Kenya has money. Uhuru Kenyatta, when he was the president, he said we lose 2 billion in a day for corruption. I think today it has tripled. We must be losing over 6 billion per day for corruption, through corruption in this country. And therefore, Kenya has money. It's only that we are indisciplined, we are not patriotic, we are people who, they don't, even you can steal money that's supposed to treat your own brother. Your brother goes to theater and there's no medicine because his brother stole the medicine yesterday. Stole the money yesterday that is supposed to buy that medicine that he needs. That's where we are as a country.
Now, Seth, as we speak, these requirements that are in place are MOUs and agreements that have been signed and deposited to the courts, and one would expect that a court order is something that would be implemented ASAP. But over and over again, agreements agreed upon are being flouted. Where is the disconnect?
Again, I'm just trying to say that when we brought in the new government, I think some people had a feeling that health sector should be dealt with, because when you look at the issue of the internship, you remember we were here, and we discussed length about the issue of the internship, and people went on strike, and people suffered, because when you look at internship, basically the people who run healthcare sector in this country are medical interns and nurses, because when you go to every hospital today, the person who will attend to you, it is chances are that 99% will be a medical intern. So when they go on strike, the people directly suffer. They said there was no money, but when they met the president, what happened? Money was released. The strike ended. People are now working. They have been paid plus the arrears which were there. So the question will then be, is it money or is it government policy that is not written, that we don't know? It has everything to do with the unwritten policy, because Kenya has money. Even this money I'm talking about, 2 billion, you just wake up and say, give them a conditional grant and it will be released. There's a lot of money. You heard now we have been allocated almost 200 billion, almost double what the Minister of Health was getting. Now you ask yourself, this 200 billion, why can they do reallocation so that they put the 3.5 billion required, give to the county governments, bring this supplementary budget factor in 2 billion, or the Minister of Health, to the budget they have today, reallocate 1.92 billion to have these people absorbed. There is money.
You speak of unwritten policy, and when you talk about it, you are stakeholders in this sector. One would hope that you play ball with the government in coming up with a policy that will be able to address all these issues. Are there conversations around this? And if not, why?
We do not need to write any policy in Kenya. We have enough policies that are good, that have been running healthcare system. The problem you have is that the policies are set aside, and then people start implementing their own things. For example, you talk of corruption. Is there a policy dealing with corruption in Kenya? It isn't there. You've had so much things to do. Every time ESCC ranks institutions which are corruption within public sector, police is number 1, health is number 2, health is number 2. Have you ever had anybody in the health sector has been prosecuted? No. Nobody has ever been prosecuted and has been, I've always said, it has been a royal haste in health sector. No one will touch any person corrupt in the health sector. So it has nothing to do with policy. We have the best policies, but we are not implementing. We substitute policies with personal interests and corrupt practices.
Warapanyako, if indeed what you say is true, and I take it at face value, and that indeed there is corruption at Afia House. The
Ministry of Health. I said when the EACC ranks
Yes.
corruption in Kenya, they'll put the police number 1, then Ministry of Health number 2.
Yes, there's a president who agreed with you. And the focus of this particular president was with the procurement officers. And there was a huge amount of money that somehow, in Kenya, money gets lost. It's not actually true. Money can't get lost. Somebody has to do something with it for it not to be seen. But it's a discussion we keep having, and we seem to be going around in circles. Why? There's no year that passes when we don't have a strike noticed. There's no year that passes when the problems that are being talked about are based on a problem and an agreement that was set up to solve the problem that had arisen. And yet, again, here we are. Is it possible to find a lasting solution to these problems?
It is very much possible because we have the privilege to have gone to other countries. We've seen what other countries are doing. For example, a country like Rwanda. When you go to Rwanda today, you find a country where the working class seems to have some level of satisfaction, a little bit higher than ours. So you will find things like industrial actions in Rwanda almost nil, not because Kagame is a dictator, but because the health workers, you can see it yourself.
Not because it is said
that Kagame is a dictator.
Not because it is said.
Yes.
Let me withdraw the first step.
Yes,
not because it is said that Kagame is a dictator,
Yes.
but because you can see it in the health workers.
Yes.
They can tell you themselves. And a country like Uganda, for example, they have issues in health. And President Yoweri Museveni will call the leaders directly, speak with them, even negotiate with them. The last award the health workers in Uganda was given direct by the president through negotiation. He says, if you can't negotiate with the health workers, the CBA, let them come to State House. They negotiated and agreed, the CBA was signed, and people are happy they're working. In our country, we say, let us sit and wait, let them go on strike, let a few people die, So what will happen?
But what I'm still trying to get to the very bottom of this matter here, because it becomes a very difficult situation when anybody goes on strike. Now, when we look at the health sector, where there are people who are in hospital who are unwell, who are coming to seek medical care, and the folks then who have the skill and the wherewithal to help them are not at work for whatever reason. Again, we're talking about loss of life. We're talking about deterioration of medical cases or issues like that. What is the problem? When we come and say there's a CBA, what's the year for the current CBA? We're talking about 20...
We had an agreement with the government in 2017.
So 2017, 2022.
Which enhanced our allowances, the nursing service allowance and uniform allowance.
Okay, so they enhanced that to what?
It used to be 10, and the uniform allowance was enhanced to 25,000. And nursing service allowance was 20. It was enhanced to 30,000.
30,000.
Only Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital has fully implemented. Kenyatta has implemented uniform by adding 5,000. The uniform, the nursing service allowance remains at 20. So
and are these monies actually being paid? Can and we're talking about health workers here, specifically nurses.
Yeah.
Has this money been paid? People have realized that you've gotten the extra money.
The nursing service allowance that's being paid today is on the pay slip you get and you are using it.
Okay.
But now the enhanced one of 10,000 has not been. Those that has enhanced has been more referral alone.
And why haven't these other folks enhanced it?
Pardon?
Why have the others not enhanced?
When we SRC has been giving us problems for a long time. When we say we want this thing to be implemented, they say go speak with your employers who are the county public service boards. When we go to the county public service board, it agrees and say you have the money we are paying. They start to pay. When they start paying, SRC now uses Commission for Revenue Allocation and write to them saying, "Oh, don't pay this money." So everybody's trying to pull strings everywhere. We have so many institutions that wants to be relevant.
Why would CRA come and say don't pay after SRC has said to county boards to go ahead? Why? Why would the CRA step in here?
The Commission for Revenue Allocation will come and say, "No, we have not allocated this money for this function." Because SRC has told you, go and engage your employer, who is the County Public Service Board. When we reach there, the County Public Service Board says, "Oh, yes, we have the money. We are willing to pay." They even paid 1 month almost all the counties that enhanced nursing service allowance. And then Commission for Revenue Allocation came in, and the SRC, and they canked up against it and say, don't pay. That's the kind of challenges that we have, because these institutions want to play to prove to the accounting officers that actually they are doing the work by frustrating Kenyan nurses.
Forgive me, I still am puzzled. I hope you're puzzled like me, because the processes of agreeing on what should be paid has been gone through. It has been understood. Service boards cannot say we have the money to pay if they don't know what they're paying for.
Exactly.
And that is what's happening in Kenya.
And if they don't know that all the boxes have been ticked for them to pay. So for them to pay, one,
There was an okay.
and two, the money was actually there, as you say correctly.
Yeah.
Now, what I don't understand, what then is gained when, if indeed it is true that these two bodies then come around and say, don't pay? What on earth are we dealing with?
That's the problem we have in Kenya. Somebody who does not engage workers suddenly comes up and put roadblocks to try to flex the muscles. And when you flex that muscle,
But
who
to what
suffers at the end of
to
the
what
day?
end?
But why?
Maybe when we need to relook at, maybe I'll go back to what you're saying about policies. Maybe at that point is when we maybe want to relook at the policies governing the welfare of workers in Kenya. We need to know, if you want to influence how I'm paid, then you must sit on the table. We have a body called SRC that does not negotiate with you. Because when you negotiate, you put all the factors on the table. For the employer to agree to say, I'm giving you this, you have gone through a lot of process, give and take. Now another body sitting somewhere just comes and, no, don't pay. I've refused. I've advised against. Now when you press, now the same body will come after maybe 2-3 months or 6 months. It has forgotten what it said earlier. You go now agree again with the employer, with the County Public Service Board. When now the County Public Service Board says, we have the money we want to pay. They pay actually they pay the nursing service allowance. And even this money, if that enhanced allowance will not be increased, at the retirement time, this money will be considered as overpayment. It will be removed from the salaries of these nurses. So we have to make sure that this money, the enhancement is done. Because the way our systems work in Kenya, once you are fixed in the system, when you retire, it will show everything you have been paid against what you're supposed to have been paid at the time of retirement. So the challenges we have is too many institutions who want to have a hand in what happens with the work of this country, but who, when it comes to negotiation, they refuse to be engaged. They say, oh, the law does not say we should engage the workers. But then if the law tells you, you will advise. I have not seen anywhere in the Constitution that says a person who's supposed to advise cannot sit in a negotiation. So we may want to relook at maybe to the, if Kenyans are serious that they don't want industrial actions in the health sector, there are few things that can be done and they are doable. One of them is to readjust the law governing. Me, if you asked me, I'll say, since SRC is determining salaries, it becomes an automatic employee of government. Let us give them the powers to negotiate, so that whatever we agree on the table, SRC is there. It cannot go around again and refuse it. So when we disagree, we just know we have disagreed with the body charged with the responsibility of negotiating with employers, with trade unions on behalf of government.
Is there anything that's been negotiated at the moment for which the employer is saying, we cannot do this, we don't have the money, we are unable to move? We're not even talking about what was agreed in a CBA, because that one is clear. It was agreed, it's signed. Now, whoever needs to do whatever they need to do to get, enhanced allowances paid. But are we dealing with a situation whereby there is a reason that has been given where the employer says, unfortunately, we cannot do this because we don't have the money?
The only thing that is coming clearly where they are saying they don't have money is the issue of UHC. Where the ministry is saying, and we can see the communication between the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Treasury. We can see the Treasurer saying there has been no money, something I have disputed vehemently. I believe there is money, but the priorities are what is different according to me. So I've been speaking to some of members of Parliament. They have been saying they have factored this money in the budget of 2025, 2026. I had a meeting at the ministry a day before yesterday where we did the calculations and we came up with 1.92 billion that is needed. I cannot say they have said that money is not there at the moment, because we looked at those factors a day before yesterday. And I'm supposed to meet the ministry again next week on Tuesday for them to update me on what they will have agreed. And that's little money, honestly speaking. It should not make Kenyans suffer. 1.92 billion is pocket change for some people in this country. What they take for breakfast.
Now,
one breakfast, his money is finished.
Seth, Seth, as we talk about the agreements that have been agreed, there are a set of demands that UHC workers were demanding, which were negotiated and agreed upon. Of all the itemized items out there, how many have been agreed upon? How many have been implemented? And if others have not been implemented, what are the reasons being given?
Nothing has been implemented. When the first contract ended for 2 years, they are supposed to have been paid gratuity, which was not paid. Then they said, let us extend for another 2 years, then we shall absorb them after the end of the 2 years. The 2 years ended, they were not paid gratuity, and they were not absorbed. That ended last year, that they had promised to absorb in July. Then the Public Service Commission came up very strongly with a letter advising that to continue keeping this set of health workers on these terms and conditions of service is not only illegal, but it's also unconstitutional. Because first, they have not had the incremental graded. They have not been promoted. They are earning inferior salaries compared to their colleagues. You finish school with somebody, now you got a job. You finish the same year, then you got a job, permanent pensionable. Then your friend is employed a year or 2 years later, and he comes in with a quarter of what you're getting. You are expected to live in the same house, do the same job. For example, a problem that happened in Kenyatta National Hospital recently when you saw a patient was murdered. One of the people who was questioned for that was a nurse on casual nurse. I'm not saying they did any problem. I'm just trying to say, to whom much is given, much is expected. Now, this nurse is working at Kenyatta National Hospital with those small wages they are paying. But when a mistake happens, he's treated like any other nurse. If he's going to court, he will want to hire a lawyer to represent him because we don't have a professional indemnity. So what I'm saying, it is wrong to give people with the equal academic qualification doing the same job. It's unconstitutional, and you're paying them peanuts.
Why don't you have institutional indemnity?
That is something that is a very, very big discussion. We have a lot of politics in the health sector. It is something that as leaders we discussed with our members, and we told them we need to have professional indemnity. Lawyers do have it, others have it, but in the health sector we have a lot of...
Do doctors have it?
No. Health sector, no. I'm saying health sector has a lot of politics that sometimes put us at risk. So that is something that we need to work on. It has nothing to do with the employer, because professional indemnity is you as a worker, as a profession, who's saying, no, something can happen. Who will take care of me? When you go to other countries like Canada, I was in Canada, trade unions are more powerful than ours. Trade unions to take part in employment of workers. So if you are not a member of a trade union, you cannot be employed.
Let me ask you, why do you think those trade unions have power?
First, they have financial muscle. Two, they participate actively in policy formulation. For example, I was explaining about Canada. Canada, when you are employed, you must be a member of a trade union. The trade union takes care of insurance for you.
Yeah.
So if you are not a member of a trade union, if you get injured at the workplace, the employer will pay. Because the employer will be asked, why did you employ this person who is not a member of a union? Because a union automatically is in charge of taking care of injuries at workplace.
And that's how it's dealt with. Let's take a break at this point. Seth Panyako, who is the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Nurses, is here. And we're looking at, impending strike, stopping going to work. What's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back? We'll come back and continue with that conversation. It's now 29 minutes to 10 o'clock. Come back with that shortly after this.
Kwa majina naitwa Mary Cheva. Nimekuwa nikishiriki kwa huu mchezo kwa muda wa miezi 3 iliyopita. Nilikuwa nacheza na 20 bob.
20 bob.
Na nimekuwa mshindi wa 200,000. Hii pesa itanisaidia, nitafungua biashara ya cosmetic na nifungue tena biashara ya kulisha ng'ombe. Niweze kuuza in future, ninunue shamba ama nibai gari. Hii game ni ya ukweli, ni sure bet. Nilianza na 20 bob, nikachukua lucky numbers 0 to 25, nikawin kwanza 1200, nikaona hiyo pesa inaweza.
Mnasikia? Inaanzanga pole pole. Unashinda 1200, alafu out of nowhere you win 200,000.
Omoka na dakika mamili every 20 minutes. Multiply bet yako times 5,000 kila draw. Ukicheza na 20 bob only una daka laki yako. 40 bob wins you 200,000. Ukicheza na 100 unashinda nusu milioni. Millions to be won every day. Cheza daka, pesa bika na washindi. Ni rahisi. Nenda kwenye paybill 440 account KTN, amount shilingi 20 hadi shilingi 2,000 and get your cash wins direct to your M-Pesa. Cheza daka.
When the lights went out during night preps,
tukasikia majowe kwa klasi zingine watu wakitoka mbio.
The female students thought it was just another blackout.
Kumbe kulikuwa na plan, wamekata stima.
Unaware that their lives were going to change forever.
The boys raped the girls.
Hatukuwa tunajua kama tunaweza hata kuwa na kushikwa vijana, kushika wasichana.
They are still under phobia. You know, when they see men, they see the men who wanted to rape them.
They had lived like brothers and sisters, but that night, they were monsters. What happened to the perpetrators?
The majority of them have reanimated.
Hata wamekufa wengi. Hata wale walienda wakaajiriwa kazi. Wengine unaona mtu anatoka anakataa kazi anaenda.
Ask, what were these our grandfathers and fathers doing? So it is our our collective responsibility to protect the rights of our young people, because most of these UHC staff are young people. They're our children. So we cannot sit back and say all is well when our children are suffering. But I have every confidence that from the discussion I had with the ministry 2 days ago, I hope something will come out, because the other time I was very confident and I was I was disapproved.
Disappointed.
Yes, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
So I can't be very sure, but I hope by next week on Tuesday there will be something.
And what would something look like?
All
That would be enough. That would
Something.
be enough to rescind the strike notice, and then also ask that the other health workers who are already on strike would come back to work.
They just tell us that the government has reallocated 1.92 billion, and we are putting our UHC staff on permanent apprenticeship from 1st of April. That will be the end of that strike, and I will not ask other nurses across the country to go on strike, because there will be no reason. It's not like there's no reasons. We have other very many reasons that will want to make us go on strike, but the current one that we are handling is UHC staff. Even the return to work formula of 2017 is a major issue in the nursing profession, but we are not handling that one at the moment. We are handling only one issue at a time, UHC. Once we finish that, we are still engaging the government on, from 1st of July, I said here, the only work we are going to do is to fight for the implementation, full implementation of the return to work formula of 2017. And that will be the only item, because we don't want to be going to government with so many issues until the government comes up. When the government looks at what can be done, you say, oh, the policy is bad, or you need direct nursing subsidies, then they do things. Ikifika ile kitu ya maana ya kuongeza pesa kwa mfuko, wanasema imepaki tu mbili peke yake. Na hiyo mbili ndio ina improve maisha ya watu wetu. So we don't want that. We want to be picking one or two issues and we stick on them.
You know, I am as puzzled as I was when we started the conversation. Yeah, because see, every time we have these conversations, it is clear that a promise has not been kept. And notice has been given, negotiations have been had, and there's a feeling that, we're not making headway here. So let's take a step that will force these individuals we're negotiating with to actually do what they said or we agreed they would do. Are there ways in which one can circumvent this constant situation? Because at the end of the strike, there's someone called a patient. And I am aware that these unions consider. The unions that deal with the health sector, they consider these patients. Because it's like a vicious cycle. One sector of the health sector decides they are downing their tools. You give it a bit of time, another one also decides they're downing their tools. Now, amidst all the problems we have, surely that's one additional burden on the so-called Mwananchi. Because now, it's like you dare not fall sick. You dare not have a problem that takes you to hospital.
And even today, as you talk about that, Seth has just alluded to the fact that there have been promises before that have been given. You are very optimistic. You are let down. But even now, as we go back into discussing and making sure that these we get into another agreement, what are the guarantees that will be put in place so that we don't have a repeat of the same?
You see, that is a question that can only be answered by the government.
But what would you want to see?
Because they are the ones causing problems. I think we need to have a harmonized way of having human resource function handled by a central body that can ensure that there is a uniform treatment of health workers across all the public sector. You find like count A is paying this, count B is paying the other one. National government, like this UHC stuff, those in the national government were absorbed. Those are the county government that are the ones suffering. The same people they were employed with are now having their terms and conditions of service improved. They are earning maybe around 75% more than their colleagues that were employed at the same time. Because
at the same level?
At the same time.
The only difference being that national and county government?
Exactly.
Wow.
It's a huge discrepancy,
yes,
though.
UHC why was both employed and deployed with national health facilities and the county government.
But they're at the same level in terms of what they deliver, in terms of services. We're talking
about
the same staff.
The same.
Yes, the work they do is the same.
When you are conducting a delivery at the national hospital, it's the same, but in like a dispensary.
Why would there be such a huge discrepancy allowed on that level and then not followed through on the other?
I find it very painful to try to explain because it hurts.
Yeah, I know. I can imagine.
This is a government that cannot say there is money for a section of that government and there's no money for another section of government.
That does the same thing.
You see, it means that we have the county government citizens and we have the national government citizens whose privileges, those in the national government, are superior, or they have a preference as compared to those who are the citizens at the county government. And these are the kind of things that when we said health was not ready for devolution to the counties, we didn't have proper structures in place. They said no. Because look at it today. You are asking me to go and negotiate 47 CBS with the county governments. Resources alone, we are not a government. The money we get is not enough. But we are supposed to do an average of 10 meetings for 47 counties. It will give you 470 meetings. Give each meeting even 50,000 shillings. How much is that? How much time will it take? And even what you agree may not be implemented. The same CPA that the national government has implemented. Because we said, since the national government has agreed on this CPA, let us take what it has given us. Then because of uniformity and equality, let the county government adopt it and implement. You know, some counties have adopted, some have not. None of them has implemented. When there was an increment, you remember the other time we were saying we'll go on strike because of non-implementation of improved salaries that was issued by SRC from July last year. Some counties implemented. Kisumu, Kericho, I have seen Bomet has implemented. Some have not. It is disheartening that we are all Kenyans and we have a right to enjoy the privileges in this country in terms of the monetary privileges equally. But you see, where is Bomet getting this money? Where is Kericho getting this money? Where is Kisumu getting this money? Somebody who is not paying here will now start inciting those who have paid. But don't pay again. You know, you're putting us in trouble. I thought this money comes from the treasury and you are given according to your function that you have.
Yeah.
So the challenges we have is small politics that some of the governors don't have goodwill. Because if they had goodwill, for example, they will ask, this 1.92 billion will translate to what if we divide it to individual counties according to the number of UHC staff you have. Then they top up from their own budgets. That was another option, but they have refused.
Seth, with the glaring irregularities that do exist in terms of national government and county government in handling matters to do with health, Is it about time we started having honest conversation on healthcare being domiciled in one institution, if it's national government, so that it's easier even to negotiate for them?
You see, when you look at the health sector the way it is, the governors have done very well in terms of infrastructure. They have tried to build more health facilities and tried to do a lot of things. The national government came up with the management medical equipment scheme that also gave equipment to the counties. But those counties, some of them did not have capacity to use those facilities. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that the main problem that we have in the health sector is not entire thing. It's about the HR, human resource for health management.
Yes.
And we don't want to talk about national government, because once we talk of national government, the governors jump up and about that we want to go back to the national government. We want a central board. And that's why I was selecting my word. I said a central board that can ensure there is uniformity and can negotiate. And when it comes to those negotiations, it should not be about health workers alone. Because at the county government level, we have other workers who are not health workers. They're equally going through the same problems. A county like Kakamega has not paid salary for February. They just pay for January the other day. And you know, the counties, if you have a loan, they already
it has been deducted.
Interest has already been done. So by the time they are paying you, you may end up having nothing. And when we want to ask what is the problem, they say national government has not released the money. So this cycle continues year in, year out, year in, year out. Yeah.
The introduction of a health service commission has come into play. The teachers have one, so it is clear how operations are. It's clear who goes where, who does what. So the commission is usually the one who is making the negotiations, who is ensuring that certain things are in place. The talk of having a health service commission, this is not the first time that it has happened. It has been suggested by doctors, it's been suggested by other practitioners, it's been suggested by clinical officers. What is the reluctance to the establishment of a health service commission in Kenya?
The reluctance is on the governors. You know, governors, when the devolution came in, they looked at the budget in the health sector when it was still at the Ministry of Health. And they saw a huge amount of money. And they thought the money was free. It was just to be eaten. So they rushed and said, we want this function. And even they went ahead to demolish the referral system. The healthcare referral system in Kenya, we don't have it.
We don't.
Even within the
counties, we don't have it.
We don't have it. It was demolished.
No, explain. When you say demolished, what do you mean?
You see, level 4, level 5, and level 6 are referred as referral health facilities.
Yes.
So if you take level 4 and level 5 and you contain them in a particular county, the referral system is broken. For you to get a patient from, for example, Kisumu, take to Kakamega, you will require special arrangement with the 2 counties. But if it's a national referral health facility, utatoa mgonjwa hata kama ni Busia utapeleka Kisumu, nobody will ask you anything. So that system was broken. They looked at the money and they saw the money is a lot in health, and that's where they can get the money from.
And they thought the money would be
and indeed it's happening. Even FIF, the money called funds for institutional funds is meant for FIF, for improving health facilities. If that money goes to the county government, they redirect them to other things. So you go to hospitals, there's no medicine. Maybe you have equipment, you have no qualified staff to do that. You don't have adequate staffing levels. But they say, tumechenga hospitali ndio pale, wananchi mnaona. Sasa wananchi wana building na hakuna kitu naendelea kundani. We went to a hospital in Busia some years back when my friend Ojamong was the governor. He had built so many health facilities. And we went to one, complete theaters, everything. But there's no single health worker there. Nothing was going on. And yet people can see that there is a health facility here, but health workers have refused to work. You know, wananchi watasema tu, hapa waligoma. Tangu hiyo hospitali ijengwe, hawa watu waligoma. Hawajui ni hakuna watu wa kufanya hapo kazi.
Today,
it was I'm saying when Ojamong was
when he was
governor.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
I think up to now he's working. It is the same facility that was in the media the other time when I thought of some prominent person when I slapped my nurses. The same facility they were. You remember that instance?
Yes, we do.
That's the hospital. Yeah,
it's an interesting hospital.
Quite thing. Apparently, things happened there.
Yeah.
So looking at what the idea behind its establishment was, but okay,
because a hospital that is functioning,
yes,
is more dangerous to put a new facility and you don't staff it. Because when the patient come, for example, amekuja outpatient, they are supposed to go to the theater, and the theater is there. written theater. Alafu you're told no theater, go to Busia. So watasema hii watu wa theater wamekoma. Kwa nini departments hizi zinafanya kazi? Mwananchi hana the time to go and scrutinize and know why theater is not functioning. That's not the function of Mwananchi. Mwananchi wants treatment. Services to be given.
I want to look at another issue of the hiring of staff, that whereby it has been complained that, you know, there just are not enough staff hired, again, because of the issue of money. When we look at facilities across the country, you're now talking about staffing and you don't staff them. The understaffing, is it because that there are not enough qualified health personnel to fill these facilities, or to put them at the times that they're needed to then offer care that's needed? What is the issue there?
The staff shortage in terms of, if I talk about the nurses, where it belongs, over 100,000 nurses are needed in public sector today.
Okay.
But the challenge we have today, first, we don't have enough nurses. Even if they were to employ all of them, they will not be enough, because at any given time we have about 8,000, between 7,000 and 8,000 nurses who are not in employment, in what we call proper employment. You know, there's what we call underemployment.
Yes.
Some people have gone to other things which is not even nursing. So these are about 7,000 to 8,000. They say we need about over 100,000 nurses in Kenya. So even if they were to hire all of them, they will not be enough. But even the few who are there are not being hired. Those who are being hired, they are being put on dubious contract that defeat the law, because the Employment Act is very clear. Section 5, that you cannot employ a Kenyan on terms and conditions that goes against the employment policy of the country. And the employment policy of Kenya 2016 says you cannot put a Kenyan on a contract for work that's not going to end. A contract, it must be a contract. For example, when you're building a house, you know it will end in 2 years. So you put people on 2 years contract.
And what about healthcare? It never stops.
It will never stop until Jesus comes back. If he ever comes back.
So don't put them on contract.
That's what policy says.
That's why the insistence on PNP then becomes a thing that. So this is the thing that I don't understand. If something is formulaic in nature and has already been decided upon, whereby you say, number one, you can't give somebody a contract for something that will never end. Healthcare doesn't end. The upkeep of health and life is something that is permanent just by the nature of it. And those who are in the business of practicing understand this. Those who are in the business of operating these controls, being government, ministry, whatever the case may be, understand this as well. So I'm still looking for why it is so difficult to be able to connect those two dots.
Health sector is the most mismanaged arm of government. Look at the teachers. You mentioned about the Teacher Service Commission. The teachers today, the Teacher Service Commission knows which school requires which teacher. It has the statistics there. It even knows how many teachers are qualified at what level. Today in Kenya, if you enter the Ministry of Health and ask them, can I have the data of, for example, medical apparel people qualified at high diploma level? You will not have it.
Why
Nobody has this data together. That's issue number one.
Was there a time when that data was available at the Ministry of Health?
No, that is why we formed. You see, things are scattered all over. That is why we said we formed the Health Oversight Authority to have the data of all health workers in Kenya, which has not happened. The policy is there, I said, has not been implemented. So when you look at the teachers, the Teacher Service Commission is the champion of the teachers' right number one. Because the Teacher Service Commission itself will say, we want this money to hire teachers. This is the shortage of the teachers we have. And the government listens to that. In health sector, there's no single person, board within government, that is there to stand for health. It means health services in Kenya, nobody's defending Kenyan workers. Look at this thing we have been talking about, SHA, which was a very good thing. If it was to be implemented in the thinking of us, I am contributing a lot of money compared to what I was contributing. But the services are not there. And when you tell somebody that SHA is not working, some fellows around the president go and cheat him that SHA is working. So you see, health is, everybody wants to manage health in a way that they want. So unless we agree, again, look at even that SHA, if you were to implement it properly, you cannot have you and me working 4 million Kenyans to shoulder the burden of healthcare services for 55 million Kenyans. If you were to ask me, I had a conversation with one of the most progressive members of parliament yesterday, and I was asking him, what do you think is the best way to go? The man is so brilliant. He told me the best is to stop deducting workers the money for SHA. It is to make it a tax. Put it on something that goes to every village in Kenya. So that even that person saying I'm not employed, if he receives money from his brother, 1,000 shillings, and he goes to buy kerosene, he has paid tax already for health. Then health becomes universal. When I was in Ghana, they said universal health coverage is free. And if universal health coverage is free, then it is public. So public healthcare services, if they have to be universal, if you must attach to the word universal health coverage, then it must be free. Free services in any country are funded by taxes, not levies from a section of the citizens.
That fellow of yours is actually bright.
He's very bright. I can admit to you.
I'm saying he's bright because I am thinking of something that has been reintroduced. Toll stations for payment. Somebody came up with the levy, the fuel levy.
Yes.
Brilliant. You buy fuel, you're paying. You're paying for that road maintenance.
This toll thing is robbing us. It is double taxation. Double taxation. We've already paid. Why do you want me to pay again?
You may have pulled out your point, CT.
They're stealing from us. Unless it is optional, like expressway, where you decide
to use it.
You use it or you don't want to use it.
Yeah.
But if it's mandatory, they are stealing from us.
So, if we're looking at UHC, that would essentially be free. Tag it on to the taxes, what you're talking about anyway. And that's what happens. I mean, we have replications of that. Yes, Ghana is an example. The NHIS, rather the NHS in the UK follows the same, where you pay taxes and essentially you can walk into hospital. Perhaps that's something that needed to be looked at. Because when we talk about, UHC and the coverage and the way it's going, Taifa Care today, not only are those who go in to seek care, also those who give the care are affected by this. So there's the call from people when we say it's not working. From the worker's point of view, and I think it's important to bring this in here because it contributes. From a worker's point of view, what's the uptake and what is the general idea about how it's been working in the last couple of months, weeks?
The on SHA.
Yes.
I have to tell you what my people are telling me.
Please do.
It is not working. I have I'm also in other world. I'm also a small politician.
So a small one, okay.
My chief campaigner, who also campaigned for the president in my constituency, he's the most lethal man today where I come from.
Is lethal good or bad?
Has very bad on the mouth. When you give him the microphone, if you are in bad books, just start walking away. He will dismantle you. I'm sorry, I don't have to discuss personal matters.
Yes.
A friend of mine, let me leave about that one. Okay. A friend of mine somewhere is poor, cannot afford healthcare services. The wife has a terminal illness that has to be managed on a daily basis. I decided to pay SHA for a whole year because those are the level of 300. So I paid 3,600 for 1 year. SHA has never 6 months. SHA has never worked.
When you say it has never worked, what does that mean?
You see, when you go, they tell them it has broken down. The system is not working. It is not working. It is not working. And yet you have paid the money. So I end up giving money again from my pocket
for treatment.
Help this family for treatment on a daily basis. Because he is my friend, a close friend of mine. I cannot leave a close friend of mine to have his wife die when I'm seeing. So I have to get from my pocket to support him. Yet I have paid that money. And myself, I'm paying over 20,000 for this thing called SHA. Where is the money going?
Okay.
So where does it leave health workers who are then in these facilities and then cannot offer the care? That's the question also. Where does it leave health workers?
The most traumatizing thing is that you work at Mbakasi Level 4 Hospital. And when you want to access those services at Mbakasi Level 4 Hospital, you be told, no, you cannot be treated here. Go back to where you stayed to a dispensary. So you are sick, you are offering services, you cannot be treated in that hospital.
Why?
That is how SHA has been structured.
We understand. We understand. If you were to go to the hospital they direct you to, would you be able to receive that service?
You will not, again. Leave alone now being told to go to that dispensary. You will go to that dispensary, although there's no medicine. And that SHA is not working.
Okay. So from a health worker's perspective, also looks as though there are challenges from those who come in to seek care. There's also challenges here.
Serious challenge. It's very frustrating. You are offering services you cannot access yourself. And this SHA thing was a very good proposal to make health universal, so that it's accessible to everybody. But we need now to relook at it. Look at what the other countries are doing, as you have said. Let us make this thing a tax, everybody pays. Even if it's a tax and they reduce what you are paying, I have no problem. If I will not receive any message, come for Harambe. Mtu yetu amepata bill kwa hospitali, cannot pay, come Harambe. Oh, amekufa, tumalize bill. If that will happen, I have no problem paying that tax and still paying what I'm paying for my salary. As long as it will be free and it will be available. Yeah.
So